Hello and welcome back to the Calm and Connected podcast. Today's topic is all about small body movement coping skills. So we've talked about the importance of movement, how movement is powerful. We've also talked recently about big body movement, and I'll link up the episodes that I talked about those two topics on down in the notes below. And then today I really want to focus on those small body movements. There are lots of different ways you can just use your hands as a way to do a little bit of movement and help yourself reset. So one thing I love to recommend to kids, if they're just feeling like they need a little bit of help or they need a little bit of a body break, sometimes I have them just massage their temples in the middle of class. Nobody necessarily knows that this is a coping strategy for a kid. They could just be massaging their temples. It doesn't mean that the kids are going to look at them and say, oh, you're really stressed out or you're really having a hard time. But it can be something that can be done, and it doesn't look different, or it makes them feel weird when they're doing it in the middle of class. So just a simple massaging of the temples. Another thing kids can do in class and not have anybody think twice about it is rolling their shoulders. I actually do this when I give my talk for PESI. So when I talk for PESI, I talk about 60 strategies you can use in the classroom for ADHD, anxiety, and anger. And it's a long day. Let's be honest. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning. We don't end till 3:30 or 4. And so it's a long day for people to be sitting there. So during the first part of the talk, when we're not doing as many experiential, let's try a coping skill, and it's more just, let me give you some more information about what anxiety is and what anger looks like, and some statistics and the introduction to coping skills, I give them a body break. I give body breaks throughout the day because I know what it feels like to sit there and listen to somebody. Even if the information is really good, I feel like my body needs to move. So by giving them the permission to move their bodies and do some movement breaks and actually building them into the day, it seems to help people reset and refocus and re-energize in the middle of the day. So works for adults, also works for kids. Another strategy I love to use for small body movements is fidgets. There are so many fidgets on the market out there that, I always have a basket of fidgets whenever I work with a kid. When I had a school counseling office, I always had a basket because you never know what fidget kids will like. I have kids who like the ones that have an elastic band in the middle and are all blocks together. I have kids who love marble and mesh. I have kids who love the tangle fidgets. So I always had a bunch of fidgets out there to see which fidget a child would gravitate towards. So I would encourage you to try some different fidgets. And just one thing to keep in mind is explaining how to use a fidget in a classroom. So when a kid is talking to me in my office, that's one thing. It doesn't matter how loud a fidget is. It doesn't matter if it's super distracting or making clicks or clacks or any noises like that, because it's usually just me and the child in an office. However, in a classroom, having a fidget that makes noise can be really distracting. So it's just something to think about in a classroom environment. Being careful about what fidgets would be helpful as tools for children. Marble and mesh is great in the classroom because it is super quiet. I find that stress balls turn into basketballs or footballs or baseballs. And so I don't necessarily always like to have those in a classroom or even in my office, because it really does become like, let's just shoot baskets instead. It's always a good rule of thumb to explain how to use a fidget and the difference between a fidget as a tool versus a fidget as a toy. So you can use a fidget spinner as a tool. However, most of the time it turns into a toy. So what I mean by that is, if it helps a child focus more on their work, if it helps them listen more accurately, if it helps them pay attention more, then that is a fidget as a tool. If that fidget then becomes something that they're spinning and staring at and not listening and not paying attention and not completing the work, then that's become a toy and it's no longer a tool. So I have a blog post all about the importance of using fidgets as tools, not toys. So I'll link up to that in the show notes. Another small body movement that kids really love is using Mad Matter. It is super satisfying. You can see that it sort of feels like kinetic sand, a mix between kinetic sand and oobleck, but not sticky, and it doesn't get everywhere and it doesn't dry out. It's an amazing product. So I love talking and sharing all about that whenever I can. So I definitely would recommend checking it out, trying it out, seeing if it's something that you like. I love playing with it personally. And my kids love it too. And one last thing that is a small body coping skill is shuffling cards. It's a good life skill, actually, to learn how to shuffle cards. Just, when you're playing card games, to know how to shuffle and deal out cards is a really important life skill. However, at the same time, it can just be kind of comforting and relaxing to shuffle cards. It's maybe something that you want to try with your kids. Show them how you learned how to shuffle cards. See if they become sort of a whiz at it. You never know. You never know what kids are going to gravitate towards and what they're going to enjoy until you try. So I definitely say give it a try. Thanks so much again for tuning into the Calm and Connected podcast. If you have any small body movement coping skill ideas, I'd love for you to send them to me. So you can email calm, CALM, at JanineHalloran.com. And if you like this podcast, please feel free to share it with your friends, show them how to subscribe, and rate us and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts. One last thing, please take a few minutes for yourself and have a little fun. Have an awesome day.